I'm Dr. Warwick Morris, a plastic and reconstructive surgeon. I was actually born in Durban, and that's why I ended up here. Although I did my schooling and I went to medical school in Cape Town, I had decided during our medical school training, where we were exposed to all the different specialities in medicine, I certainly I felt that I would like to become a surgeon, in that surgeons do things positive to make their patients better, to help their patients. Of all the surgical disciplines that we were exposed to, we actually only had one 40-minute lecture in plastic surgery, but I had read a bit about it, and I had decided, in fact, as a medical student, that that's what I wanted to do, was to become a plastic surgeon. In those days, one had to obviously do one's internship, which I did at Rugby Hospital, and then I started my career training in surgery. I went initially to Baragwanath Hospital, and then I came here to Durban, to Addington, and in fact, that's the first time I came to this medical school, was in 1968. At that time, if one wanted to become a plastic surgeon, there were only 8 training posts in the whole of South Africa, and one, in fact, had to have a final a specialist qualification, in other words, a fellowship, FRCS or FCS, before they would take you on as a trainee in plastic surgery. That's difficult to do in a minimum of 5 years. But I had succeeded. So by 1969, I had my specialist qualification, and I then sought a post in plastic surgery. I was working at the time in England, but it would have taken much longer to do my training if I'd remained in Britain than if I came back to South Africa. So I came back here in 1970, and in fact my first job was here at King Edward VIII Hospital and this medical school in orthopedics, while I waited for a post in plastic surgery, which became available eventually in Johannesburg, so I started there. After a year, for a number of reasons, a post became available in Cape Town, and I moved down there where all my family were at the time. At that time, in fact, all I had to do was 2 years in a training post, what we call a registrar's post. But I didn't feel that was adequate, particularly with the training that I had received. I saw an advertisement in some periodical for a fellowship at the University of Michigan in the United States. I applied for this and was accepted it, but in fact, there was a gap of almost 9 months when I finished my time in Cape Town before I could go to the United States. I was then very lucky to get a post in the sort of major private plastic surgery clinic in Johannesburg, which was the Brenthurst Clinic in Johannesburg, run by Jack Penn, who was South Africa's first plastic surgeon, and his associates. And I worked there for 9 months before going on to the University of Michigan. I then got a hand fellowship in the University of Louisville. This is the final 6 months of my training I spent in England at the Queen Victoria Hospital in East Grinstead, which was one of the units established at the outset of World War II by one of the big names in plastic surgery, Archibald McIndoe. Right, so really I then did far more training than was actually required. I qualified as a plastic surgeon in 1973, but I started in practice here in Durban as part of the university in 1975. So I did my 50 years. But I have felt very strongly throughout my career that, in fact, the more people you can learn from, the better your training is going to be. And that has been one of the reasons why, in fact, I stayed so long in my career, and that was to teach. To me, in fact, teaching the people coming after me, because I had been taught by others, it was almost more important than the service work I did as a practicing plastic surgeon. So I really enjoyed teaching it, and that's what I've been doing mostly the last 5 years since retiring from private practice. I've not done a lot of surgery, but I've spent a lot of time with young up-and-coming plastic surgeons, and I think they have certainly appreciated it. The other thing I felt very strongly about is that one great thing about plastic surgery is that we can combine so well with so many other surgical disciplines in the reconstructive operations that we do. I spent a lot of my career doing what we call craniofacial surgery. This was a sort of super speciality developed by a French plastic surgeon in the 1960s, early 70s, where by working with neurosurgeons and maxillofacial surgeons, he pioneered really major procedures to improve mostly congenital deformities of the face and neck. Another very memorable thing about craniofacial surgery is that a lot of the conditions we dealt with were mostly children with an inherited defects. So I got to know families. One family in particular, I remember, treated grandfather, father, daughter, and her grandchild. I was involved for 45 years suturing rugby players, both at Kings Park, Ellis Park, Newlands, Loftus. I was actually honoured by the Natal Rugby Union and the Sharks recently in that they named the medical suite after me. I qualified 60 years ago, and as I say, I really retired last week. So I'm 84, and I think I've done my time. Between reading and the internet and watching rugby, I certainly don't sit there and wonder, what am I going to do today?